Whether it's the high cost of living or the uncertainty over tariffs and everything that's happening around the world, Canadians are feeling the stress when it comes to finances. Now, this anxiety can have a major impact in our day-to-day and in turn our work as well. To break down your rights and what qualifies someone for disability should you be in that situation, we're joined right now by Nainesh Kotak, founder of Kotak Law. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
Well, thank you for coming in today. And we're feeling great right now, but a lot of people in life are not feeling great, especially if they're dealing with a disability. Before we kind of go into the weeds of it all, can you define a little bit about what it means to have a disability and what that is?
Right. So if you're looking in a pure insurance context, that would be short-term or long-term disability benefits. Disability will be defined in the policy. And usually it is so for the first 2 years of your disability, are you disabled from performing the essential tasks of the duties of your employment? But after 2 years, most group policies will have a provision that says you need to prove that you're totally disabled from performing any gainful occupation that you're suited by way of education, training, or experience. So that's sort of the technical policy definitions. The disabilities could be both physical, they could be psychological, they could be neurological as well.
Well, you mentioned it right there when it comes to mental health. I mean, unfortunately, I've had friends, I've had people that I know who are dealing with burnout, emotional stress, anxiety, and they say it's so hard navigating the system. And it's almost, for them, easier if they had a physical injury, you know, they broke a leg or something like that. So when it comes to the mental health, navigating that, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing for people who are trying to make a claim for disability who are dealing with mental health?
You're absolutely right, because a physical injury you can prove with an X-ray or an MRI. Mental illness, whether it be depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, these are sort of based on subjective complaints that a person has and they make to their treating physician. We also have to keep in mind the stigma attached to mental health and claims. It's still there. We have, obviously we've made a lot of strides with, things like Bell Let's Talk. There's Mental Health Month, which is in May, but still there's a stigma. And what that does is people will be less likely to report their symptoms than they would if there's a physical complaint. So that leads to insurance companies, for example, in a disability claim case, well, the records, you don't go to the doctor a lot, the records don't show that you have the symptoms that you tell us that you do. So you'll find that more mental health claims are more likely to be denied approval for disability benefits than physical complaints, again, because of a stigma and because of the reporting issue.
Well, and when it comes to disability in general, can you talk about the benefits of having a disability lawyer? Because even though you've paid into your premiums, you have insurance that's covered, it's not easy where you'll get covered immediately. It's quite a bit to navigate. So where can a disability lawyer help with that?
Right. So a couple of things. So there's it really depends on the reasons for denial. The usual reason is insufficient medical evidence, and anyone who's been denied a claim will have read that in their letter. Sometimes you have what's called a pre-existing condition where you haven't worked long enough and they deny it there. Sometimes it's social media. So it's important, I think, what the lawyer's role would be, particularly a lawyer who's experienced in disability law, is understanding the insurance policy itself, being able to read through the denial letter and look at the claims file and coming up with a strategy to overcome the denial. And usually that's done by way of litigation against the insurance company that denied the claim.
So when it comes to the early days, as you're dealing with whatever it is you're dealing in life, what do you see are some of the common mistakes before someone kind of reaches out for help, or maybe they don't and they kind of start the process without representation? Right. What do you see are some of the common mistakes that people make, especially when they're making a claim for disability?
Right. So it all starts out with there's 3 forms that go in when you make the claim. One is the employee statement. It's very important to list all the symptoms that you have in the employee statement. The employer statement is usually straightforward. It's just, your rate of pay and your last day of work. Very important, that relationship with the doctor, because the 3rd form is called the physician statement. So the doctor needs to not only know, you let them know your symptoms, but please let your doctor know what kind of job you had. Because your doctor may think, oh, maybe you can do modified duties, but if it turns out that, you're constantly dealing with customers and you have difficulty now with that stress, the doctor may have a different conclusion about your ability to work. So make sure, I see a lot of times the doctor not knowing what type of actual work you do and what your duties are in order to give a better opinion about your employability. The other thing I think is report the symptoms.
Yeah.
And accept the advice of seeing a specialist like a psychiatrist. I know many people don't like taking medication. I understand that. I don't particularly enjoy taking medications either. But most insurance policies have a provision that says, look, if you don't take the usual course of treatment, they don't have to pay, right, for that time period where you don't. So I think it's important to listen to the physician's advice, report your symptoms. Those are sort of key areas of advice I would give, as you go about making a claim.
Well, and also we always think, oh, no, it's not a major symptom. It's not a big deal. But when it comes down to your health and taking care of yourself, it is a big deal. So Nainesh Kotak from Kotak Law, thank you so much, as always, for coming in, letting us know, the support that we have and how to navigate this very complicated time right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
This portion of Global News is brought to you by Kotak Law, your long-term disability firm.